Okay, we're live. This is my second YouTube video live stream. Yesterday I did my first one and I realized I had pushed something in the on the screen that moved my video down to the let's go the other way, down to the lower right corner, so that you could just barely see me, but you could hear me. And the rest of the screen was filled with stuff I don't really need. So today, here I am again, and I'm going to explain why I moved to Thailand eventually in February the 14th, Valentine's Day, 2022. But originally, it all started with my first trip to Thailand in 2017. And that was to work with the Open Minds Project, which is a Swedish-based NGO. They're based in Nong Khai, Thailand, which is up north, right along the Mekong River, hop, skip, and a jump from Vientiane, the capital of Laos. So the reason I did that is because years prior to coming to Thailand, I'd thought about what I wanted to do in my semi-retirement years. So then I would have been, 65, 64, somewhere in there, about 8 or more years ago, when I was thinking about what I could do, where I could go to get an international experience. I'd been to Vietnam before, way back in 1994. So I had some inkling of life in Asia. I'd never been to Thailand, and I had had 2 surgeries, both shoulders, rotator cuff issues from my work as a house painter and then a contractor, and a neck fusion from actually just a bad disc, C6-7. And I was told that the best way to resolve my problems when I was looking up, my neck would go out, would be to fix this down here to provide a stable neck. So I'd had 3 operations, 2011, 2013, 2016. The last one about a year before I came. Each one took about 6 months to heal, except this took only a few weeks or a couple of weeks. I was fine the next day, basically, cleaning house, doing things. They went in through the front, so it was just a little bit sore and messed up a little bit in there, but nothing serious. I'd also had cancer of my thyroid. In 2013, it was discovered that I had a right nodule, which had been there for about 10 years up to that point. And I'd had it tested, needle tested, fluid removal to see if it was okay. And each time it came back, we're not certain, but I think it's okay. Not 100% though. But I just, I went another 5 years after the previous test. And I said, well, what the heck? Let's just get it out. And I had exhausted my insurance co-pays, and I found out I could get it removed, the nodule, for free. No cost on my insurance policy. I think it was Obamacare low income, because I was still a contractor, but I was working only part-time. Seasonal work. So they took it out and they sliced it up and found cancer. So I was lucky I did that. They said, well, we recommend getting the other half out. So instead of the right, they took the left out now. And so I had that out. They treated me with a shot in the butt that brought all the thyroid remaining cells into play, into vision. And they saw it was right there. If I had anything, it was right there behind my thyroid that they'd removed, close to the parathyroid, which is behind the thyroid. So they gave me one iodine radiation pill, which went right to that area right here and killed the remaining thyroid cells, just to make sure it didn't spread if there was any lingering cancer cells. That was the treatment. It was finished. I had clear bill of health after that. So that was, 2011, 2016. I had all that going on. 3 surgeries plus the cancer removal of my thyroid. Start taking medication every day since then, levothyroxine. So about 2016, after I healed my last shoulder, which I think was my right shoulder, I said, I want to go somewhere. I want to get out of the country. Things are not great here. I want something different. So I decided to go to Thailand. I signed up with the Open Minds Project to come and help poor village youth from several countries. Thailand, of course, Laos next door, and Myanmar. I think Cambodia was involved earlier, but not at the time that I came. So three countries, about 20 people were there. We taught English and basic computer skills. There was another 5 or more actual volunteers there, I believe, when I came. So I had a minor role. I was just helping out where I could. And I did that for about a month. But before I came up to Nong Khai, which is where the project is based, it's a Swedish-based group. The director lived in Nong Khai or close to it. And I decided, I've got last-minute changes led to about a 3-week period where in November I was supposed to start then, but they said you can't start until December. So I lined up a vegan detox week in Puket. I just came across something and I don't know. I decided what the hell I need to detox because I was still probably smoking cigarettes a little bit here and there. And being a painter, house painter, for many years before, even though I stopped doing that around that time and just hired people to do it, ran the company. I'd had a company for 25 years, but I still did a lot of work. I said, okay, I need a detox. So I decided to go to Puket for a week. Then I had 2 more weeks after that was done in Puket. And I'd lined up a meeting with a Thai woman via the Thai Cupid website. And I'd done this just before I came. I said, I'm coming to Thailand for the first time. I don't speak a word. I need somebody to guide me, show me around, spend some time together. I had no idea what it would lead to. And I didn't say I want to have an affair or find a lover. I didn't say any of that. And I said, I'll be leaving in 2 weeks after we meet. She was from Aonang in Krabi province across the Andaman Sea. Andaman Sea was the other day. So across from the Gulf of Thailand. And so we met and we had an affair for 2 weeks, basically. And then I left and went to Nong Khai up north. And I kind of had fallen in love with her, but falling in lust maybe a little closer to the truth. Sweet girl, sweet woman, excuse me. She was 46, I was 65, 64. So quite a large age gap, but nothing remarkable. I mean, she was just, seemed like a nice woman. She had a girlfriend that was hanging out with us most of the time and would see her and then see me and then see her. And I think we shacked up for a little bit of that time in a hotel. But I said goodbye, kind of lingering goodbye, because I really didn't want to leave. I enjoyed it so much, just being with somebody that was open to me. And but I learned that she had a lover of 5 years prior Australian guy, my age, same age, that she'd been meeting up with, and he'd been stringing her along because she probably liked him, but she knew he was married. She didn't want to break up the family. He said, "Oh, I want to be with you. I'm not sure if I can divorce my wife," all that stuff. So I found out she had put that whole thing on hold because he said, I can't come back and see you. My wife is retiring after, it's a 40-year marriage. So her career was ending. She was retiring, and he had to kind of be around more because she wasn't at work all the time. He was telling her he was just taking vacations to get away from it all, I suppose, keeping it a secret, the affair. That's all I knew. So, I felt free to have a short-term affair or relationship with this woman. She was open to it. I didn't know anybody else was around. I didn't know he was around. Of course, they were talking to each other online. Long story short, he found out about our affair and got pissed off at her. Said, "You can't be having sex with somebody else. I'm coming back." So he gave her another, fish line, little hook and bait, carrot on the stick, and she fell for it. She said, "Well, I have to wait for him to come back. He's coming back in a few months, and he'll stay with me, blah, blah, blah." So I said, I was kind of a little bit upset about it because I wanted to be with her later. But so I said, "Okay, fine, go on with your affair with him." His name was Paul. And so I bowed out, went north, did my work for about a month in Nong Khai. By the end of December, everybody was partying to go home for a vacation, a break, at least a week. And I was sitting around there by myself, and I thought, why don't I just head home? There's nothing. I don't really feel compelled to stay for too long because it was volunteer. I was provided with room and board, no compensation, but that was okay. So I left, and I went up to Laos and took a bus across Laos to Vietnam. When I got to central Vietnam, which is where I landed to transition country to country, I came there to visit a project that I'd been involved in years before called Peace Trees Vietnam. That's another story I'll tell later, but basically they do demining and tree planting with the Vietnamese. They recruit Americans to go, including veterans, to work with mostly young people in the Quang Tri area, which was the former demilitarized zone during the Vietnam War, what they call the American War, because we invaded their country, not the other way around. And so I was there, and I got to see the Peace Trees Vietnam Project, which had planted 1,800 plus trees in a large area that they'd demined. They'd found at least 1,800 pieces of ordnance, unexploded ordnance, which they used Austrian high-tech deminers to locate, demine, blow up a side here, over here. And then they started marking every place they had found, and they started replanting, replanting the area, called it, with more biodiversity. And there's still a lot of, it was the most heavily bombed area during the Vietnam War because it was in the demilitarized zone, so-called. In other words, they just didn't allow anybody in. So they bombed it very heavily. And so after that, I decided I would go to visit a friend from Olympia, where my hometown was, Olympia, Washington, state of Washington. And his name was John. He was from Olympia. He'd been in Dalat, central highlands of Vietnam, 2 hours west of Nha Trang, which I visited before early on in 1994. So I kind of knew where I was going. So I came down to Nha Trang, hopped the bus, spent a day or two, hopped the bus to go up into the mountains. and spent about a week in Dalat. My friend John was deathly ill when I got there, and he said, I can't even stand up. So give me a few days. I'll try to meet you before you have to head out. I was going to go back to Ho Chi Minh City and fly home. During that week or 6 day, whatever, since John wasn't available and I knew nobody, I went back on Thai Cupid, and I met a woman who, of course, was looking for somebody to hook up with. She was in her 50s. Seemed very kind of like wanting me to stay or to come back or, be a partner. She wanted a partner. And I told her, that's not my plan. I'm heading home. I'm not planning on coming back. So I'll be here for a week and maybe we can hang out and do some things together. So she took me around, showed me these temples, and the Bao Dai, former emperor of Vietnam, who the US CIA appointed the head of the South Vietnamese government when they were coming in to take on the Viet Cong from the north, and the Viet Cong in the south and the Vietnamese in the north. So a lot of different places we visited that week, boom, 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 every day. So I went home via Ho Chi Minh City. This would be January of 2018. Long story short, I ended up going back to Vietnam to try and see if this relationship with this woman might work, because I really didn't want to live in the US anymore. And I had a little soft spot in my heart for Vietnam. But when I got back, came back to Dalat, beautiful city. She was in a difficult situation. Her mother had just died, 90 years old. They were having the funeral pre-ceremony with the Buddhist monks. She had to move out of her apartment. She had quit her job. I told her, don't quit your job. I'm just coming to spend some time with you to see what, if anything, might come of this. We need to get to know each other. But she had kind of set it up so that I was kind of stuck there with her. Quit her job, that was the big thing. And it's like, okay, now who's supporting you? Me. So I'll cut it short and just say that after being there for about 2 weeks, I knew this was not going to work. I needed to let go of it. I had found her an apartment, brand new building close to where her brother and her mother, who had died, that house that her brother had moved into before her mother moved somewhere else. Anyway, it was close to her brother's family and a nice view from the top floor. We'd been there for going on 1 month when I told her basically at the last minute that I was going home. Broke her heart, I know. But I couldn't stay. I told her I just couldn't stay. It didn't feel right. And there was various things that came up that I knew I had to make that decision. It wasn't a good match. She was too controlling. And other things, like wanting to lighten her skin. I don't like makeup as a rule. And the fact that she'd done what she did, quit her job, had to move out of her place, had to rely on me as soon as I came, did not sit well with me. So I found her a job cleaning up in a couple of guest houses nearby so she could have some income. I left her some money to pay for several months rent, which wasn't that much, $60 to $100 a month, something like that. And I found somebody to move in with her, who was an Italian lady that was moving from Da Nang to Dalat. So I did the best I could, left her with something, some hope of being able to manage the situation. Didn't want to just leave her high and dry. That's not me. So I went back and left and came back home, and then pursued a relationship that somebody I'd met before I went to Vietnam, Just met her before I came. I mean, I didn't spend but 2-3 days with her. So I know it sounds like I'm a serial relationship, one after the next. Yeah, that's true. I had the affair, and then I had the second affair. Neither one worked out. Came back, and this woman was like, "Okay, now that you're back," she knew what I'd done and what I'd been doing. She said, "Okay, now let's have a relationship." So I tried that for about. She was an older woman. She was a mental health therapist. She had a very interesting, if difficult, um, childhood, but it led to her eventually becoming a mental health therapist. Um, she was also an accomplished artist making heirloom. Oh gosh, you put on the bed. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out right now. Some beautiful bedspreads, I'll call them, is lack of a term. And and she played guitar and she liked music, and so did I. So we started dating and ended up eventually getting together. I moved in with her because at that time I was just renting with a friend and had no reason to stay in Olympia if I didn't want to be. She invited me to stay with her down closer to Seattle. So I moved in, and over the course of about the next year, we were kind of up and down. Towards the end, we were very up and down. And I'll save that for another video because that's a whole another story. So we broke up sometime 2019. I bought a mobile home. My second marriage had ended in 2013. I'd bought a mobile home before, after me and my ex-wife separated, eventually divorced. And I'd been there for a year or more, and I fixed it up, and then I sold it and made some money. Moved on in my business. Worked in human services for a while with senior services for South Sound. And eventually went back to my painting business. I'd been a contractor since 1997. So here we are, 2019, 22 years later. Bought the second mobile home. I paid $52,000 for it. Found out it had been purchased by a Vietnamese guy, not local, but Seattle area. He purchased it for $10,000. Done some cosmetic work. I thought he remodeled the whole inside because it had wallboard and texture and everything. I'm being a house painter. I'm like, wow, this is like a real home inside, not like a mobile home. And so I purchased it, not realizing what pittance he'd paid for it. He fixed it up, but it still needed a ton of work. The plumbing was all screwed up. There'd been some previous water damage, I found out. I didn't explore well enough when I bought it. So I put about 10 grand into it for all electric, all new plumbing, all new lower siding around the periphery. I fixed everything that needed to be fixed. And into 2020, when COVID started, I started supporting. I contacted the woman in Aonang that I'd had the affair with, and I said, "How you doing?" I just, at that point, was just occasionally emailing her, I think, and saying, "How are you doing?" And she was still with Paul. I said, "Is Paul supporting you?" She said, "No, not. He can't come anymore." And I got the impression he wasn't really sending her money. He was still with his wife and not committing to her, and so it's still up in the air. And so I said, "Well, okay, I'll send you a couple $100 a month just to help you out." I wasn't thinking ahead. I wasn't thinking, okay, this is going to lead to something. I was just trying to be a friend. maybe I had something in the back of my mind, but it really wasn't my main reason at the time. So about a year later, 2021, I got involved. I was single. I was alone. I lived alone in my uh, manufactured home. It was in a 55 plus park. Nice people around me. Some sick, some dying. But I met her online, and she lived close, not too far, same town, Tumwater, small town close to Olympia. We got together, and I found out eventually that she had dementia. She was a Washington State employee in the financial sector for God, 15, 20 years. Knew all the politicians and from the top governor on down. So she had a very important position, and I kind of admired her for that. And she was driving her car around, didn't seem abnormal at all to me at first. I noticed that she had some behaviors I couldn't really understand at the time. Before I knew she had dementia onset. Her two sons, she had lived with them before she moved in with me. After we met, had some dates. And her sons never disclosed really what was going on.
ใช้แค่ถ่ายแล้วรู้สึกยังไง
Hold
ครับ
on.
ไม่เคยใช้ยาสีฟันสมุนไพรค่ะคิดว่ามันคงแปลกๆไม่เหมาะกับเราแต่ว่าพอได้ลองใช้เทพไทยเนี่ยใช้
Damn TV just goes on automatically after a while period. Okay. So anyway, I'll cut that one short because that's a whole nother story. I got so many damn stories in me. I try to bounce back from each situation that I can. Sometimes I do therapy, psychotherapy, or different types of body work, breath work, healing, deep healing. I've done a lot in the past, as you can imagine. So our relationship ended with her dementia starting to take a turn, and she just moved out, suddenly went back to live with her sons. And then, of course, they informed me of the obvious, which I had to accept and let go of. So we didn't see each other after that. I talked to her sons once, and that was it. So that ended in about April of 2020. COVID was kicking in. Excuse me, 2021. So I'd been supporting this ex-lover, girlfriend, whatever, in Thailand. Few $100s a month, whatever. She told me her relationship with Paul was just a friendship now. And so I suggested, what if, and I still wanted out of the U.S. I didn't want to be there. I got a lot of reasons why not. And for one, I couldn't afford to retire on my Social Security, which I started at 63. I was getting, believe it or not, $633 plus Medicare, which took out 100 and something every month. But it was the rock bottom minimum that you could be paid on Social Security. I've been self-employed for over 20 years, reporting minimally because I work part-time in seasonal work, mostly the summer. And then I would work human services and get paid $12 an hour. So I didn't report a whole lot. And so they subsequently didn't see much in my background employment to allow much of anything. So it went up 700 or something after a year or two or three. Cost of living escalation, 3%, whatever. And so I knew I couldn't retire on my Social Security. I had to keep working with the painting business. I hired a couple of good people, and they were sticking it out with me for years. So I had a good crew. I paid them high, top dollar. Made, whatever I made, saved some money. And so I proposed to the ex-lover, how about if I come to Thailand just for catching up and spending some time together, see how it works out. And she said, okay. And so I went there thinking, well, maybe it'll end up good, maybe not. So long story short, that didn't work out. And after about, I gave her the money that I got from the COVID payouts. It was close to $3,000. So I was paying that to her over the many months. For about 18 months it was, before I decided I wanted to go back to Thailand and spend some time with her. I was looking for a relationship. What can I say? None of them had worked out. And my 4 choices: foolishness, sex and love addiction, you name it. But I didn't want to live alone into my years. So I kept open to relationships. That one seemed like a possibility. Of course, I would have to move to Thailand. So I went there, and I was there for 2 days in late October 2021. And she told me she was still in love with Paul, so she couldn't be with me. 2 days in. And God, I was so upset. I was like, what? Why didn't you say something before I came? Dipshit. Anyway, yeah, I was angry. I was hurt. I was angry. She, 2 days, I tried to convince her, yeah, you can love Paul, that's fine, but is he coming back to be with you? And blah, blah, blah. She's like, well, yeah, okay. 2 days later, she said, no, I'm sorry, I just can't be with you. My heart's with Paul. So I said, okay, move out, because we'd been in a little bungalow together close to her apartment. She moved out. I had some of her stuff. I put it back on her apartment doorstep. She took off for about 3 days, no incommunicado, right? She knew I was upset. My God, who wouldn't be? Now, 2 days into our relationship, actually the first day we spent together, if not the second morning, she took me to get a massage with a friend. So me and her went to her friend. Her name was Nina Massage. So I think we had a double massage. One of her friends came to help out. And that's how I met Nina. So after Penn was her name, after Penn told me, sorry, it's not going to work, I still love Paul, I said, fuck. I'm going to go. Who do I know? I don't know anybody except my next door neighbors who knew Penn. But they were like, sorry to hear that. Could care less, right? And so I went and found Nina's massage shop, which was not in the main drag, not close to the beach. It was really out of the way. And I kind of vaguely remembered that it was close to this big store called Macro. Turn left, go down the street. So I kind of fished around a couple of streets, missed the mark, came back, found the right street, went in, saw her place, stopped in, told her what had happened. She knew Penn. They'd been friendly towards each other, both massage therapists, Thai massage therapists. I would say on the legitimate end, not sexualized. And not doing happy endings, all that stuff. So I trusted Nina. And when I told her, I said, I'm going to go back to the USA. She said, no, why don't you stay for a while? I'll try to help you manage the situation. Well, she had talked to Penn already, and Penn said, can you take him, help him, blah, blah, blah. So she was already aware. It was kind of a plot by Penn and Nina being single for 10 years, having divorced her first husband. Was game for a relationship, but we spent a couple of weeks together and went on a couple of little short trips, and I fell in love with her, and I felt a lot of compassion for her. Her sister had died of cancer the year before, a stomach cancer. She'd taken care of her sister for about 18 months, and it was a really hard experience. She'd opened her first massage shop the month that before COVID was declared. So they closed all the massage shops. So she told me she'd gone into debt over the previous several years, probably, borrowing money. I told her I would pay her debt off. At that time, it wasn't that much, but it was significant. And she was eternally grateful, and I felt love for her. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go home. We had an engagement party actually before I left. All her friends were there, neighbors, friends. There was one guy from Finland, one guy who was next door neighbor when this all happened with Penn. He's from Australia as well. He was hooked up with a Thai lady, friend of Penn's. So they came, they were the only foreigners, about 20 people. Had a nice dinner, had a ceremony. I think we had the rings, not expensive ones, just symbolic ones. Tying the rope, the little thread around the wrist, to mean, we're tied together. I was okay with that. I wanted to marry her. So I said, I'm going back to USA. I'm going to come back as soon as I can. So long story short, how did I get to come back to Thailand in February 14th, 2022? This was November 2021. Went back, sold my business to my lead painter, sold my house, got a good price, made some money. Sold my car. It was a 2010 Prius, so it wasn't worth a whole lot. It had a damaged front door from an accident. Sold it to a friend. The business went to my lead painter. Sold the house to somebody for a good price. Sold all my belongings, bicycle, guitar, furniture, bed, everything. Emptied it out before the new owner moved in. And made the move to Thailand to be with my wife-to-be, whose short name is Nina. More on that in the next video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding, for your compassion, understanding. I'm not saying I'm anything close to perfect, that's for damn sure. But I'm happy now that I'm with her here in Thailand. More later. Bye for now.